All right, let's talk about this fellowship. So let me give you all the secrets right away, right? Here's how it's going to work. You are going to submit an application online September 14th or earlier. You can do it this week if you really want to. It is an online application, and if you guys want to see the application and want to talk about specific questions, we can open that up and dig into it tonight if you want to. Then after you submit that application, there's going to be a group of panelists who will act, they're really more like mentors, they're really more like project advisors who are going to read your proposal. I will have recruited them and trained them to know what the IAC needs to see happen in your proposal, and also just because I believe that they are people who can make your project even sharper or stronger, or have been in your shoes before and can help kind of guide your goal for this project and make sure that it actually gets you where you want to go in the future. So this group of people is going to read your applications in the same online fashion. You may not know them, I suppose, but you will be able to hear them talk about your project. This is basically how all of our grant panels function. They go through this exact same process. But this is with the training wheels on. This is going to be if you've never applied for a grant before, is there anyone who this is the first time they've ever gone through a grant process? Yeah. This is going to be your starting point. You'll feel so much more confident doing this in the future because this grant is not competitive. This is your grant, but we are still going to ask you to go through all of the steps so that you feel more confident and know how this works in the future. So that's part of this, right? This group of mentors, project advisors, or panelists, these are the folks who help make decisions on if grants are funded or not. So they'll review it on their own time, and then they are going to meet together in an online Zoom meeting, and they're going to discuss it. They're going to discuss each one of your applications. You are not required to be at this virtual meeting, not at all, but it is a public meeting. We post it publicly, or post the information about it publicly, so that anybody who wants to wander into the Zoom meeting can listen, including you. But you're just there to listen, really. This is not a participatory meeting where you will be asked any additional information, and it's okay. This is just how this kind of thing functions. You will be able to hear some of the feedback they give anybody who is in your cohort and applying in this as well. They'll be in the same meeting. So it could be fun to listen to what other folks are doing and kind of get a sense of maybe some more pieces of advice that you want to collect for your own sake. But again, this is optional for you to attend, and it will be recorded if you want to listen to it later. What happens in that meeting is they're going to be looking for the pieces of the criteria, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Every grant has criteria which guide, what makes a strong grant proposal, or what are we looking for in each grant proposal. So they're going to be looking for those elements. And if there is something that's just really missing in your proposal, say, for example, it's hard for them to understand what the goal for this project really is. Maybe it just feels really intangible, or it's just, they're not quite grasping it yet. Or maybe they might point out that, something in your budget actually may not be an eligible expense. If there are things like that, they're going to point out. And before we go into contract, we're going to get the chance to rectify those issues, right? That's really a pretty big difference between this fellowship and a lot of other grants. A lot of other grants don't give you that opportunity to make it right or make it fit so that you can be funded, right? You may also hear other things in that meeting which are not like they may bring up things about your project that are not critical and don't like have to be addressed or changed, but maybe make you think, oh, you know, that was some really good advice. I want to change my plan because I really value that perspective. That's great. We'll make any changes that you want to before you go into contract, because then you're off to the races after that meeting, that review meeting, and you make any adjustments, either required or otherwise, then you do what you set out to do. So this fellowship is a project grant, and a project grant is for something specific. It is not just to fund your amazing, thriving life so that you can continue just doing whatever it is on any given day so that you're creating your work. It is more specific and tangible than it is open-ended. So what you write into your proposal is what we'll be looking for you to do in 2022. Let me pause there for a moment. Does this feel, what do you think? Does this make sense, how the steps we're going to go through to get this fellowship off the ground, or what still feels fuzzy?
It feels clear to me.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
I'm off screen.
so far so good.
Fabulous.
Clear.
Fabulous. Has anybody had a chance to look at any of the fellowship questions yet? Yeah, Teresa has. No, not quite. Okay. Well, you remember that your workbook and the curriculum, the things that we talked about last week, builds up to this fellowship proposal. So a lot of the things that you'll see in the application are things that hopefully you had a chance to chew on during the weekend, during the whole curriculum. There are some of the big elements of the curriculum really help you put together what this proposal is going to be, right? So the one important piece that you do need to know about, you do need to like keep front of mind are the fellowship guidelines. I mentioned this before. They're bound in your workbook notebook towards the back there in the pages that have an orange stripe on the inside. That's where your fellowship guidelines can be found. They can also be found online. Let me jump over to my web browser here and show you how to find them. If you are on our web page, you're going to find the on-ramp information by going to training and on-ramp. As you scroll down here, there's lots more information about on-ramp, but of course we're talking about the fellowship. And in this tab, you can see that there's a link for the full guidelines for the 2021 on-ramp fellowship. You are not the Greater Lafayette cohort, so that means this one is for you, right? So here's the guidelines. These are the exact things that are printed in your workbook. Make sure that you print these out or bookmark it or whatever you need to do to make sure that you know where to find these again. These are all the rules and requirements for your fellowship. I mentioned this already. This is a project grant. You may request up to $2,000 to put the course lessons into action. Really, that means to take the next steps in whatever it is that your goals are. I talked about this process. You know that I am your fellowship manager, so you contact me with any questions about anything in your fellowship, either before we're putting this plan together, or later on down the road, maybe in April or something, and you've been working hard on this project that you've set out for yourself, but snagging the plan. Who do I call? Or maybe even after the fellowship, if there are questions about how to, I guess I have no idea what kind of questions you might have even farther on down the road, but give me a call. Okay, So you know that we've had lots of opportunities to kind of check in about the application, the fellowship, and upcoming, you will, of course, unless you may have already had your one-on-one coaching with one of your instructors, they certainly can help you clarify what you might want to work on next. You don't have to use that time to talk about the fellowship, but of course, you know that's an option if you are still feeling uncertain about how to put this big experience into some next steps. Totally get that. Here we are now. And then one last help after today for your application. You can ask me questions anytime, right? Like call me, email me. Texting is a good way to contact me as well. But you can also ask me to review your entire fellowship proposal if you want. And I'll give you feedback as if I'm one of those reviewers, right? So if you would like me to review that, fill out your application completely in that online system. Fill out everything. Don't hit submit yet. Just email me or text me or call me and let me know that you'd like a staff review. And please let me know before September 7th if you'd like a staff review. That way I give you enough time to make any changes before you have to submit it on September 14th. After you submit your application, that you can expect the panel meeting to be in sometime the week of October 18th, and I'll send you more information probably at least 2 weeks before the meeting about when it's going to be and exactly how to find it. You will officially hear that you've been awarded this fellowship the week of November 22nd. Keep an eye on your email. At that time, you'll know like if there's anything that group of panelists, mentors feels like, ooh, here's a really important thing that needs to be addressed. You'll know that the week of November 22nd. And then we will tie up any loose ends that we need to before January 1st. The fellowship period is January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. That means whatever you're proposing to take place, whatever you're proposing to do with this money has to take place before January 1st and December 31st of 2022. There are lots of ways that we can make that work. If you need to be doing something now, you need to start your work now, right? Like that's 4 or 5, what's math? 6 months maybe? 5 or 6 months away. If you need to be doing your work now, you do your work now. And we write, I can help you. You write the fellowship project to be for whatever you think is going to be going on January 1st through December 31st. It doesn't have to take that entire year. It just has to start and end within those dates. And then you'll have to fill out a final report. Here's a fun thing about grant writing. There's almost always a final report. So that's going to be a couple of narrative questions asking you like about, did you feel like you made progress toward your goals? Or how did you feel like community engagement supported where you wanted to go? There's also some quantitative information that you'll need to report, like how many people participated. That might be 1, just me. It was just me sitting down to compose this new work. That's what my project was and what it was approved for. That's fine. It may be 5. I met with my business advisor. I hired another coach and a website designer. That was enough, right? Maybe 3 or 4 people. Maybe you had proposed a series of workshops or beta. You're testing out some kind of product. Maybe you engaged with 200 people in the activities that were directly related to this project. There's no requirement for that, but there are things like that we're going to want to know in the report. Okay, you know about the review process. Let's talk about the review criteria. What makes a strong grant? You're going to need to, in your proposal, show that you'll need to describe and showcase your creative work in a clear and compelling way. While we're here, let me just flip back over to the application and show you how might you describe your creative work in a clear and compelling way, okay? Forgive me if this is too much flipping back and forth. Please let me know if I'm moving too quickly for you. In this application, check it out. This is your application. It's telling you reviewers are going to look for these points in your responses. You describe or showcase your creative work in a clear and compelling way. And the first question is describe your main creative work. Okay, great. Now the reviewers are also going to be looking for your projects to have a clear goal that will help you reach your bigger goal, bigger picture, creative career or creative business goals. So, okay, we are going to ask for some samples of your work. I'm going to ask you for an artist resume. We're going to ask you, what is your long-term creative career or creative business goal? What is your goal for this project? How will the project help you make progress toward your career goal? So what I want to emphasize here is that you will do just wonderfully in the criteria by just answering the questions, right? The questions are not designed to trick you. They're designed to bring out the best information to make you really shine in your proposal and meet the criteria really well. So let's keep talking about what this is going to look for. Now that you kind of have a sense of how the application draws out that information, and of course there are more questions in the application, the reviewers are also going to look for feasibility. The project timeline needs to be realistic. It needs to start and end within the fellowship period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. You need to have planned out all the details of this project, and it should be clear to the reviewers that you can definitely pull it off. That might mean that you pull in some extra help, right? You don't have to do this whole project by yourself, but you should have a plan so that the project can happen, right? The project budget should be realistic. It needs to include all the costs involved, and the expenses need to all be eligible. Remember how we worked out what does it cost us to be a human, to invest in our business and do our work? That's something that you can translate directly into this part of the project. You want to make sure that if you are proposing to host a debut of your new choreographed works, and it's going to take place at the summer festival on the pavilion, then you're going to need to include all of the costs involved in that, not just the cost of your costume, or not just the cost of your practice time, but also maybe there are costs involved in licensing the music, or rehearsal time for yourself or your team, or the printing of the materials to get people excited about coming to your workshop, to your performance. You can have a project that costs more than $2,000. You're getting $2,000 from us. If your project costs more than $2,000, you just need to show us where is that money coming from. It might be coming directly from your pocket. Maybe you are contributing your own money to make this happen. Maybe you have another supporter who's excited to see this work out. Amazing. Maybe there are expenses that are in kind, right? Which would mean if I was doing that amazing new choreographed work in the Summer Festival Pavilion, perhaps the festival is not going to charge me the cost of the venue for the performance, right? Maybe that's part of the participation in the festival. We'd call that an in-kind expense. They're contributing something that might otherwise cost me money. And finally, you'll need to use community engagement in your project. And it should be clear that investing in these relationships will help you reach your goals. Let me talk for a minute about community engagement and what we're really looking for here. Those are two pretty fuzzy words. Like, we all mean different things when we talk about community, and we all mean different things when we talk about engagement. What we're looking for here is that two-way communication between you and somebody else who is important for you to do your work. That might mean your neighborhood. It might mean your suppliers. It might mean it's your co-teachers or other folks who live in the building or practice in the building where you have your studio. It might be with another group of graphic designers who are all trying to figure out how to create a more efficient workflow for large clients. Community is just a way to group people, isn't it? And what we really care about is that you are actively listening and asking other folks about how they, really about anything, learning, looking to learn and listen from folks who are important to your work. It might mean that you've identified an on-ramp that you would like to maybe expand this product line that you have of creating a really unique, bespoke, handmade journals, right? And you're really excited about this new product and believe that it's going to be perfect for that, like, high-end gift shop market, right? Maybe like something that you would find in an art museum or a small county museum or something. But maybe you're not quite sure yet how folks, maybe you have somebody in your mind, the person who pulls that book off the shelf. Think about that. Maybe they are your community. So now we're thinking about clients, right? Or customers, potential customers of community. What makes them want to pull something off the shelf? What makes them really love their life when they are using your hand-bound journal with hand-pressed paper and dyed work, right? Dyed paper. Community engagement might mean that part of, if you want to develop this new product line, maybe you also decide to ship off a few copies of this newly created product and ask a couple of folks who who are kind of fit into your ideal customer. Maybe you want them to test it out for you first, and then you want them to send it back to you when they have filled it up, so that you can understand what it looks like at the end of its life, or how folks are using the margins of it in a really interesting way that maybe you'd want to amp up in some of your marketing or product development, or maybe you even want to get their permission to use this product and photograph it for some of the work, for some of the marketing materials that you want to develop. Or maybe community engagement might be that you've identified an on-ramp. You have a really rich network map. Remember the partners, the allies, the supporters. But you're finding that you're really craving a different mentor role in your life or in your creative life. Maybe community engagement for you in this project is to carve out 10 hours a month or whatever to reach out to someone that you admire and ask them for a cup of coffee. It doesn't have to be something really intense in community engagement. There are a million ways for you to listen, ask, and incorporate what you hear into your work through the project. It could be a survey, right? My advice to you is that community engagement in this project should feel like it helps you do what you were already trying to do in the end, right? Relationships are obviously a critical piece of why you do what you do, and also a critical piece of how you do what you do. And so that's what this fellowship is really looking for when we're asking about community engagement. Don't let it feel like it's that tag on thing that I have to do to make my grant work, but think about, just explaining in your proposal how you may already be doing that with what you're proposing to do this next year. Okay, we covered a lot of ground just now. What questions do you have?
Do you think you could repeat all of that? I'm just kidding, but yeah, I just joined.
Glad you're here. We're recording this, so
Nice.
You can check it out.
Bet.
Okay. Well, like I said, these questions in this application are designed to pull out the information that you need to show you're meeting each one of these criteria. So answer the question. My best advice there. Okay, I want to cover a couple more things in this guidelines that are a little bit of fine print, right? You should all be eligible. This application is going to ask you just to confirm that you're still living in Indiana, still 18 or older, etc. So you can request up to $2,000, and really this funding is very flexible. It's designed to meet you where you are and help you get to where you want to go. But there are a few things that you cannot spend this money on. You cannot use this money for expenses unrelated to the project. Duh, right? You need to tell us what you're going to do with this money and then go do it. You cannot use it for operating support for an organization. That means I can't just add this money into my business bank account and just keep doing what I'm doing and then never think twice on it, right? This is for something specific. You cannot use it for travel or expenses outside of the United States. You can travel or spend things outside of Indiana. Yes, absolutely. If you need to go to San Francisco for the next year and do your work there, amazing. You can use this money to do that. If you want to go to Italy and learn from the best accordion player in all of the world, sorry, that's not this money. You cannot use this money for tuition for a degree granting program, debt reduction, or debt elimination. You can use this money for like going to a workshop that's hosted by Indiana Wesleyan University. You cannot use this money for a class that helps you get your master's degree at Indiana Wesleyan, right? That's the difference. You cannot use this money to cover debt, like, again, maybe you took out a loan on a storefront, or maybe you are still paying off some of your student loans, or had finished out a major project and racked up some pretty significant credit card bills on it. You cannot use this money for that kind of stuff. Beyond that, sky's the limit, pretty much. Could include supplies, rental or purchase of an equipment, facility rental, marketing, publicity, promotion, travel or transport within the U.S., personnel, support for an artist residency, workshops and training, and other expenses that further career development. You just got to tell us what your plan is first, right? Okay. Feel free to look more into each of these requirements of all Indiana Arts Commission grantees. You can find them here in this link. The most important thing you should know is this payment schedule. You are going to receive your fellowship in two payments. You're not going to get 100% upfront. You will receive 75% of your total award. So There's no reason you should not ask for $2,000. So 75% of $2,000 is $1,500, right? Yes. I do this all the time, I promise. It's going to be deposited, I believe, direct deposit into your bank account. That will happen early January or whenever you have completed your contract. The second payment is kind of a reimbursement for your project expenses. So the remaining 25%, the remaining $500 is going to be paid to you after you submit your final grant report. Okay, so think about that for your own cash flow. 75% you get up front, the remaining 25% is going to come after you've already completed everything. So you know that your project has to take place between January 1st and December 31st of 2022. But you don't have to take that whole time. If you say, you know, I'm going to have 3 new short stories written and in circulation by September 1st of 2022, amazing. And maybe you're done with that on September 1st. Maybe you finish it July 31st, great. As soon as you fill out your final grant report, then I'll read it and approve it, and your final payment will start processing. So the sooner you complete your project and complete your final grant report, the sooner you'll receive that final payment. Any questions about that fine print I just went over? Okay. All right. Your final report is due January 5th, 2023. That feels like so long from now, doesn't it? It's going to sneak up on you. So maybe just go ahead and put it in your calendar now, or put it in a big, like, write it on your wall if you want to. Whatever it's going to take for you to remember. You're going to get a lot of reminders by email. So just go ahead and start making it a habit to check your email. Or maybe if your email inbox is flooded with too many things you can't keep track of, it may be time to either like figure out a different system for yourself so that you can effectively communicate by email, or maybe just get yourself a new Gmail only for IAC stuff or only for business stuff, right? So that you know if it comes to this email account, it is a different alert on my phone, and I know I'm going to make sure to read it. I know that after you start your project, you may realize that your plan wasn't perfect, or maybe life happens, maybe a pandemic Lovato happens, and you may need to change your plan to make your project work. So you just need to call me if that happens. If you thought, I'm going to buy this laser engraver, it costs, I have no idea, $1,800, I don't know. And then the price of laser technology skyrockets or drops. Maybe you got it for $900, I don't know. And you realize, I have a lot more money to spend on something different. Can I do that? Yes, probably, but you need to call me first, just so we can keep it all on paper and have, have your contract with the state of Indiana clean and in good shape, so that protects you and just keeps your relationship with us really clear. Okay. All right. Well, we covered most of the ground here. What would be helpful for you guys? Do you want to look at the application? Do you want to sign off early? Do you want to hear about some other ideas of people who have used their fellowship for different things? What would be helpful?
What was that first option again?
We could look at the application itself, and I can tell you what each question is looking for.
Let's do that.
Yeah, sure.
I would also be interested in knowing kind of some of the projects that have already been done.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be cool.
Okay, sure. Okay, so one more time, I'm gonna remind you how to get to this application. I believe I emailed you this link last week, but I'll do it again, absolutely. It is not the most intuitive link. So this is where you log in, in.gov/arts/login.html. Bookmark that when you get there, so you don't have to remember this. And it's not easy to find from our website. I'm working on that. But just go ahead and bookmark this login page. This is the same place where you applied for on-ramp, and you may have applied for other things from the IAC as well. It's all the same thing. What happens here is you've been automatically assigned an application to you. So that application is already on your dashboard. When you sign in, this is what you should see the very first time. Your name will be here. And then down here toward the bottom, if you have other things that you are applying for from the IAC, they will also appear down here at the bottom of the screen. This is your On-Ramp 2021 Central. This is your central hub for all things related to On-Ramp 2021 applications. So this LOI, this was what you submitted to even participate in On-Ramp. This application is where we are now.
Anna, I'm sorry, are you sharing that? Because I'm not seeing that.
I'll take a look at yours specifically after this call, and I'll make sure that there's nothing hanging.
Could you share the screen?
Oh, are you not seeing my screen?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're good?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for interrupting me. I appreciate that. Okay, so when you sign in, here we go. You probably didn't see this either. in.gov/arts/login.html. It's annoying. Just go ahead and bookmark that when you get there. You already have an account. It's the same thing that you applied with to begin with. When you sign in, this should be the first thing you see is your applicant dashboard. Towards the bottom of the screen, this is where I was talking about all your information about On-Ramp. This application should already just be there on your dashboard, and just click Edit Application to pull it up. Okay, let's take a look at that. I showed you a few questions already in this application, so I'll just jump into a couple other things here. I want to give you a couple pieces of advice for submitting samples of your creative work. You have already done this once in your application. If you feel like that's still the best work sample, that's great. You can submit the same one. But what I suggest is that you provide the most digestible and relevant collection of your work to show that you have the experience and the skills to accomplish what you're set out to in this project, right? If you're proposing to, if you have had a lifelong career in photojournalism, you have been photographing people in situations in everyday life, and you've been submitting them for commercial or journalist purposes. Amazing. But now at a different stage of your life, you're interested in moving into like a studio fine art photography kind of setup. Cool, awesome, love that. Maybe you've had a little bit of experience with that already, or maybe you've just had a couple of examples of work you've done before that you wanna emulate more of that style or that approach. Great. I would suggest in that kind of a situation, if you have a limit of up to 10 high quality images, so maybe choose 7 of your best pieces of work from your career to show that you are a really talented, high skilled photojournalist. maybe some of those, maybe there's 3 of them, another 3 that you've kind of dabbled in, like portrait photography or a different type of photo processing, image processing, and you want to show the panel that that you've had some experience or training in this different type of process. But you show, of course, that you have skills in photojournalism or in photography altogether. And then maybe show a little bit of where you want to go with it next. And make it specific to what you want to do in this project. You can upload or provide up to 10 images, or up to 10 pages of writing, or up to 10 minutes of video or audio, or if none of that really fits with the kind of work that you do, any other like type of work sample or media that should take about 10 to 15 minutes to interact with. Don't submit just like your entire website. If you want to, you can submit a link to a website. That's great. But think about putting together a specific like gallery page or something on your website that's curated for this project or for what you want to show off related to this. Or yeah, maybe this stuff, this could be so far unreleased work, doesn't have to have any like special accolades around it at all. Just put forward what shows your skills related to this project. You should also have an artist resume. If this isn't something that feels familiar to you yet, this is the time to get it together. You probably will be asked for it in other areas of your creative career. An artist resume is simply a resume from your perspective and experience as a creator, as a professional creative person. So it might include, if you're a visual artist, it might include a list of shows that you have been in, whether they are a solo show or it was a group show and you just had 1 or 2 pieces in it. That's great. You need to be keeping track of those anyway. If you don't have a list of all of those shows, stop what you're doing and write down as many as you can right now. It doesn't have to all show up on your resume, but you need to be keeping track of those things. It should also include any educational experience or employment or projects or awards or collaborations or any other opportunities that show you have the experience and skills to accomplish the project goals. Maybe you went to art school. Amazing. So glad you had that opportunity. That's really great. Maybe you did an apprenticeship with a woodworker, or maybe you are self-taught and are an amazing artist just because of YouTube videos. Yes, that happens, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in that. Maybe you were just like a what are those called? MOOCs, online. There's MOOC. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. I'm sure Wendy knows. Doesn't matter. Maybe you just did a bunch of online courses and made yourself a pro in Photoshop. Awesome. You should list that here. Maybe you also, growing up, helped your parents manage the books in their small business. I think that's relevant here. I think you should include some of that kind of experience, right? So you can think a little bit outside of the box in terms of like outside the artist box, right? Especially for the resume for this project, you think about what would be relevant for people to hear about you. This is about your creative career or creative small business. So the direction that you want to go with this project, teaching, maybe you taught arts and crafts at summer camp as a teenager. Great. That might be useful. Maybe you have had a lot of experience. You have been volunteering at the senior center and working with folks, using like playing music and remembering the beautiful things they loved about, Dean Martin or whatever. That's a relevant experience too, especially if it was related to like, I want to be teaching more workshops to people who have never felt comfortable in an art museum before, right? Okay. We talked about a couple of these questions already. Again, all of these questions are designed to bring out the information that the reviewers need in order to evaluate your project really well. Let's talk about feasibility, because this is a big section. First question asks you to describe the project in detail. It's asked, and these are reminders for you to even start on this. What I like to do when I'm typing out a detailed project is think about it in terms of a timeline. And maybe you think about it, it doesn't have to be like January 1st, January 2nd, 12 p.m., January 3rd, 8 a.m., right? No, you can think about it in terms of phases too, if that helps you. Maybe like you just say January through March, research phase. What does that mean? Okay, well, I know I need to launch a new commerce piece of my website, but I know there's like Shopify and I know there's like these other options. I'm not totally sure what's the best one for me. I need to talk to my buddy who is a web designer, and we're going to figure out what the best actual setup for me is and where I want to, like, because of what I want to do with my website. Great. Phase 2 is creating content for my web page. Okay, now that I know exactly how the mechanics are going to work, I want to actually write a description of each of my pieces or each of my workshops so that I can have it displayed in its best on the web page. I'm also going to hire a copywriter to help me with that. Awesome, right? So you can see these questions are asking you to show us that you've got all your bases covered in this project. You're thinking through all of the details. And a helpful way to organize that is often in a timeline. But if there's a better way for you to describe that, that's fine. Bullet points are great, or just lists are great. Doesn't have to just be a one big massive paragraph. It's actually a lot more useful if you highlight think about using, I think you can actually format. I think there is hybrid like HTML formatting in this. That's a recent change to the system. So think about using, that kind of headers or bullet point lists to organize your information. Okay, let's talk about the budget. This budget is going to first ask you to outline all of your expenses, and then it's going to ask you to outline all of your income for this project. How are you making the project happen? Where's the money coming from? It's not going to ask you to upload like a budget, like an Excel file. It's actually just going to have you describe it in words. So like you have done already in OnRamp, it's helpful to list out all the costs in words. Maybe think about grouping them into logical categories based on what makes sense to you and will be easy for a reviewer to understand, such as materials or consumable equipment. If I'm a welder or a welder or a metal worker, that's gas, wire, electricity. Also, I need to get some new protective equipment, including a new mask, boots, whatever. You need to assign numbers to each of those categories. So I might think about it in terms of like all my consumable consumable materials are going to cost me $700. And I already listed out that includes gas, wire, and electricity. And so it's useful to, I'm estimating that gas costs me $150 a tank, and electricity is, for I only use my shop for this project and it's going to take me a month, it's probably going to be like $300 worth of electricity, right? So that you're kind of breaking down those expenses to help the reviewers understand where that money is going. It's also useful to, you know, if you have a quote, like say you're going to buy a large piece of equipment and you know it's going to cost you $800, go ahead and tell us, how do you know it's going to cost $800? Which model are you thinking about? Or maybe you know that web design services for what you need is going to cost you $1,700. Okay, what does that include? And have you talked to somebody about it already? Have you gotten a quote from somebody? Or no, but I've done this before. I've done this before and I know from my own experience that this is what it costs. So providing a little bit of an explanation is really helpful. You also can pay yourself from this fellowship. It should be clear, like, why that amount that you're paying is reasonable for you. So maybe it helps, maybe you've had an aha moment after OnRamp to think about your rates. And usually a commission of this scale, your time or your fee for that is $500. Great. That's pretty much all you need to add in that budget. Or maybe you, at the end of the project, you have $300 left unallocated for, right? You've $300 you don't have to spend anywhere else. So you're like, I think like I'm not paying myself for this work, so I just want to take that $300 for myself. Okay, that's helpful. Just make sure that it's clear. Like I said before, you can, if your project is going to cost more than $2,000, that's okay. Just tell us where the rest of the money is coming from. So I'm just going to scroll down here to the income section. Income refers to the money that's funding this project. We don't need you to tell us how much money you're going to make this year, right? I'm not talking about that kind of income. I'm talking about the income for this project. So, for example, if you are, it looks like this project is like more than $2,000. So they're showing that they're contributing $500 personally for material to cover materials and supplies for their project. And it looks like they're also projecting that as a result of this project, they're going to earn $750. And so, you know, maybe altogether, if all of their costs are, I can't do math fast enough. You know, this total amount, then they need to show the income that is going toward that, how that project is being funded. Okay. All right, I'm going to skip over in kind. We already talked a bit about what community engagement might be, but what this proposal is asking you is to show how will you use community engagement in your the community engagement process in your project. Specifically, who will have the opportunity to listen to, learn from, and communicate with? How will that listening, learning from, and engaging with those people help you reach your goals in your project? Okay. We're not interested in just like every person you might ever engage with in 2022, but think about specifically how you're going to leverage this project to listen, learn, and communicate with a group of people, any community. And then how does that help you pursue or make progress in those goals that we've talked about already? If this feels clunky, and it often does, don't worry, this is like, this is sometimes kind of hard to answer, just call me. I'm pretty good at that. Pretty good at pulling out those pieces of information from what you're telling me. Okay. Has anybody tried to log in to the online system yet? Yeah? Did it work for you, Teresa? Did you find the application? Oh, I like it. I see Aaron
I did, yeah.
Good. Glad to hear that.
I do have a question. So I'm wondering if I could get a copy of my original proposal. Because I worked on it in Word and then copied and pasted, but I did a lot of editing within the project. So that would be super helpful.
Yes.
Awesome.
Teresa, when you log in
Mm-hmm.
to the online system, and this is your applicant dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
the application to participate in this on-ramp,
Mm-hmm.
you can view it. It's actually referred to as an LOI or letter of intent.
Oh,
And
so it's right there.
you can open
Okay.
it by clicking view LOI.
Awesome. Okay. That makes it real easy.
Good.
Thanks.
Yeah. What else? What other questions do you all have? Okay. You know where to find me.
I just
I
need
do
help
have-
getting to the application process because I'm on the website. I just forgot how to get to that application, the applicant dashboard.
Okay. Have you logged in to something like that looks like this log on page?
Yeah, I forgot how to get there. Is it? I'm on the n.gov/arts.
Yeah, you really can't find it from there. Here, I'm gonna put this in the chat. There you go, Braxton.
Thank you. Cool.
Another quick question. So, I think one of the most challenging things for me is like narrowing down which project. I have a few different ideas. Is that really where the mentor comes in, where we can kind of talk through the ideas and maybe they can say, well, this one probably has the most promise because of this,
Yeah.
or you want to see them all? I don't know.
No, nope. You do want to select one. Select
Okay.
one, and that's what you're writing your proposal for. And I can help you, Teresa, if you would like help narrowing it in. I can definitely help you with that. If you have a one-on-one with one of the instructors coming up, that might also be another good time to flesh out some ideas.
So I signed up for one on next Monday, but it wasn't, I guess I just assumed that Wendy was my person, but I wasn't sure. How does that work?
Great question. I don't know exactly who you'll have your one-on-one with, but I know they'll be
Okay.
reaching out to you with more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thanks.
It's a good question.
Those one-on-ones can be in person or via Zoom, right?
Sure, yeah. I think especially if you're not in Marion, they're planning to have them on Zoom, but if you want to go and hang out in Marion, yeah, I know, I know that'd be fun. Okay, y'all can do this. You got this. You know where to find me if you have any questions. And I would suggest just go ahead and look at that application or just start writing down your concept for your proposal now. Don't wait until the last minute. It's gonna sneak up on you. September feels like a long way away, but it will sneak up on you. Okay, have a great night, everyone. I'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Anna.
much. Have a good night.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.